Alrighty, what's up, BNB Formula members? Welcome to the BNB Formula private podcast. Today we got a really awesome episode for you guys. We have the queen of guest experience, Tyann Marsink. How you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing very well. How about you, Alex?
Good. We were just talking before this about all the cool things that we're going to be talking about here on the podcast, but usually we just go right into it. So let's just start with just your background, and then we can talk about just all the different things that the company that you represent sort of goes into. But you also have some phenomenal background experience in just general short-term rental management and whatnot. So you have a really cool story. I'll just let you take it over from here.
Okay, cool. So I started probably when you were a baby, back in 2007. So going into my 16th year, built my
Yeah.
first vacation rental. And that was actually when I had my third child. So I set up a 4-bedroom house with a 2-month-old baby on my hip. And fast forward, I later decided to spend some equity and bought a bank with no cash, a bank you can legally launder in the Ozarks. That's my little line that everybody's supposed to laugh at, but
Uh-huh.
I'll guess that they can bank on a good time as well. So
Is that
now,
what the listing says? Is that the listing title? Bank on a good time?
well, no, actually, it's the listing title is, as featured in USA Today. I thought that held a
There you
little
go.
more clout
Just a
than
little
banking
bit.
on a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that. So in 16 years, I've built 2 property management companies. So I've got 2 brands, one down in Branson, Table Rock Lake area. Those are my large homes. So my smallest home is 4 bedrooms. My biggest home is 10 bedrooms.
Mm.
And we're growing quite a bit there. Branson, as you guys, if you're probably looking at your data and things, you've realized Branson has exploded. It has been a hidden gem, and we knew investors would come in eventually, and now that has happened. My other brand is in Missouri wine country. So I'm currently the only property management company there. So I own properties and manage companies. I'm sure that won't take long to change also, but it's super small in that area. Cool things about Missouri wine country is the fact there is a Missouri wine country. Most people really don't know that there even is one, but the cool thing is it is the very first dedicated wine country in the United States. So Augusta Valley in Missouri was first, Napa Valley in California was second.
Interesting.
The other cool trivia bit that you guys might want to tuck away in your brain is that where I was born, Hermann, Missouri. So Hermann's also huge with wine country. Hermann Vineyards saved the entire wine industry of Europe. So that's another thing to keep at in the back of
Interesting.
your
How long
mind.
ago when did that happen?
That happened back in the 1800s. So there's a whole documentary on that and everything. And I can always talk more lots about wine country history and
Oh,
Daniel
I would
Boone
love
and
to.
Lewis and
The B&B
Clark.
that we just purchased used to be a vineyard as well, so that's
Oh, very
interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I think the biggest thing that your listeners can take away from this little bit that I told you about is you have to know about your area and
Yes.
the hooks to get people to your area. Because a lot of people don't know about flyover states or the little bits of
Yes.
history that's about them. And as soon as I start talking about it, like the fact that Branson has world-class golf and boating and the lake, we have more theater seats than Broadway in New York. We're considered the live music show capital of the world, and we're a full day drive from half the population of the country.
Yeah.
So those little bits and things will help you totally with your marketing and also finding your target audience. In wine country, we also sit on the Katy Trail. The Katy Trail is the longest rails to trails in the country at 237 miles. So people from all over the world come and visit us, and they come stay in wine country. So those little bits and things really help you with more than just, hey, I've got a place to stay.
No, that's you said rails literally right before we hopped on together. I was actually on a phone call with one of the top caboose dealers in the country. And we're looking on getting a caboose. He's like done stuff with like Disney and whatnot. And we were talking about like all these like little cities that have stuff like that. But no, that's huge that you said that. And I haven't really talked too much about this in the BNB Formula world. I've sort of talked about it on other podcasts that I've been on, that when the number one question that you always get for like new investors is, and we met up at the short-term rental wealth conference, and they said like a big portion of that conference for the speakers on stage were talking about market saturation, because that's what you're hearing everywhere. It's like, my market saturated, this that, and you're like, what does that actually mean? And what I've always said on top, like outside of market saturation, is whenever a student or someone asks me, where should I be investing? I live in, like, I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. It's like, I live in Detroit, Michigan. Should I be going to Big Bear Lake? Should I be going to Joshua Tree? Should I go to upstate New York? It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, those are cool markets, Smoky Mountains, very massive markets. But it's like, what are the pocket markets that it's like, I always say, like, in the bigger pockets in the real estate investing world, I always say start in your backyard. And I was like, that is true to a point. It's like, start in your backyard, but where are the pocket markets that are within an hour drive of you? Where are the markets that people are taking extended weekend vacations to in your own market? So a good example of that is, like, again, I already gave the example of Big Bear Lake, like, from people from San Diego. On the other side, you have New York City. People will drive 2-3 hours all day to upstate New York. But like, where I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, you go an hour north and you're in some beautiful, like, like towns and like hunting areas, ski towns and whatnot. So, and there are, like you said, flyover, there are hundreds of these pocket markets throughout the country that I think, if you look at the data just from like AirDNA or some of these like bigger data providers, that's sort of where short-term rentals are starting to go now. It's not that the metro cities are less popular, is that the larger urban markets, and the lenders haven't caught on yet, because I've spoken to a lot of lenders that are like, is your property not urban, is your property rural? And I would say, yeah, it is rural. And they're like, well, we can't really lend on it. It's like, well, if you look at the data for this year and the next like couple of years, rural markets are expected to just completely explode if they already haven't yet. Yeah.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite things is going into a market where there's very, very few short-term rentals or none at all. So,
Yeah,
my
which
place is
in the past that was taught as a red flag, and now it's the complete opposite. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I've got, a drug house story. I've got my bank
Let's do it.
story. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So,
yeah.
uh, yeah. So the drug house was actually a long-term rental. When I got a divorce, this was one of the properties that I was given in the divorce. And as soon as I found out it was a drug house, which was, gosh, maybe a couple months in at all, and I'm like, I cannot own a drug house. Sorry, I'm not one of those people, not going to work. Missouri's very good with landlords. So landlord laws are awesome. I just had to have a police report that said, hey, they're doing illegal activity. And the prosecuting attorney's like, okay, boom, here's a court case. Let's kick them out. Sheriff said, you ready to go this afternoon? I'm like, oh, wait, this afternoon? We move that fast? Okay, let's
Which is
give them.
rare. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
rare. I was shocked. So I said, can you please put a notice on the door and give them 48 hours to move out? And then we'll come throw everything else out after that. Now you would think that, they would resist. Well, I showed up at 10 a.m. and with my brother as my muscle, and they were coming out of the house. She had just finished vacuuming and she said, hey, can you check over the house and can you drop the case? I said, well, let me take a look. I looked through. I said, well, you need to vacuum one more time. You have to move this piece of furniture out of the basement. And then I will take a look through the house and let you know what the damages are going to be. They had been there for 6 years. They had been smoking in the house the entire time.
Mm.
It was in bad
Just a
shape.
yellow tint everywhere. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, pure yellow.
Yeah.
And so she did what I asked that afternoon. She got the rest of it out. She vacuumed one more time, dropped the key off. And so I went through and easy $10,000 worth of damage, but I knew there's no way I could get that from her. So I just said, hey, give me $500 by Tuesday morning, because the court date was Tuesday morning, and I will drop the case. And she said, okay. And she brought me a cashier's check for $500. I dropped the case and she said, can I put you down for a reference for my next place? um, sure, you can
Sure.
absolutely do that. Just so
I'm
you
the
know,
only positive person in your life, I guess. Like,
I guess I'm going to tell the truth.
yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah, it took us a solid 10,000 or more to get the house into livable shape again. And at that point, the only place to stay in town was the Super 8 hotel. And the Super 8 had been flooded out several times because it's right by the river. And I thought, you know what? Let's do this. Let's spend a couple thousand to put in some furniture and have the first short-term rental in town. Our little town had the very first green industry park in the state of Missouri, so I wanted to go after those business folks.
Yeah.
On top of that, we had the big full eclipse coming through. So it's like, all right, there's going to be lots of people coming to town. Let's see what happens. I talked to the city. I said, hey, what do you guys want me to do? Do you want me to do a special business license? Is there any ordinances? Let's make sure this is
Yeah,
all
yeah.
up and up. They're like, no, you don't need to do anything special. You're doing real estate. You're renting it out. don't need a license for that. So go for it. And if you need anything, let us know. We're happy to have you and we'll help promote you as well. So it's really great working with a small town who understands the value of short-term rentals.
Which and I love that you said that, because there's so many negative like things that have come out with like markets and whatnot, and that's something. I mean, we're going 5,000 students strong just on this community alone. And the biggest thing that I always tell the students here is, like, when we do one-on-one or when we do just group coaching, is there are for sure the red cities out there that are like, screw your vacation rental, we're not even going to give you a license. But that is the anomaly in the baseline when it comes to stuff like that. There are some cities that don't like short-term rentals but do have short-term rental permits, short-term rental complex permits, one single family short-term rental, whatnot. And I've always told the students, just, there are people in these planning departments that are there to handle these questions, to handle these types of permits. Yeah, does it take a month or two at this point? Like in my county, it takes a month or two to get these like larger permits. But it's like, once you have them, you're protected. You're not operating illegally or whatnot. There's a system. Most of these cities and counties have systems to be able to get you these licenses now. And like you said, like we just talked about, the rural markets are way easier to work with. Like if I try to call like the planning department in Detroit, it's gonna take forever. Like compared to if I go to like one of the cities in like the northern cities like Saginaw, Traverse City, and all these like smaller markets, they already have a built. It's like with the Smoky Mountains in the 80s and 90s or even 70s. Like there was already a built-in short-term rental population in there. For the most part, they were just mom and pop. That was actually, we can talk about that off record. Just like on the SCR Wealth Conference, they were talking about like how some of the AirDNA data can be skewed just because you just go off of Airbnb and VRBO, but that's a different conversation. But
Yep.
yeah, it's like, don't avoid the permits. Like it's don't avoid these people. Even if you don't want to get a permit, just call and ask, like, hey, can I get my property permitted here and whatnot? They're there to help for the most part. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, having a good friend in city planning and
Yeah, and
zoning,
they'll
and
get to know
engineering,
you. They'll start to get, oh, this is
absolutely.
Alex. He's already done this before. He knows what he's doing. It just it snowballs into a good
Right.
relationship.
Right.
Yeah,
And when city has, folks coming in, they know they can call you as well. Um,
absolutely.
yeah. So the side thing that happened is yes, we had business people come stay with us. But we decided to also be dog friendly.
Yeah.
And we very quickly realized, I mean, I grew up in the area. So I had always gone to Purina Farms as a kid to do the tours and learn about animals. You guys all recognize the name Purina, right? Dog and cat food Purina.
Yeah.
Well, part of Purina Farms is the Purina Event Center. It's only
Interesting.
12 minutes from us. So what my main core guest ended up becoming was the folks coming from all over the country to come to these dog shows and had bringing all these dogs. So it was amazing having these folks come from Alaska and Florida to this little tiny town in Missouri, bringing these beautiful dogs that were winning these ribbons and awards and things like that. So it was awesome finding that little niche that we didn't know about at all. So yeah, so at that point, I realized equity was burning a hole in my pocket, and that's when I bought my bank.
Yeah.
So like I said, no cash out of pocket. It was all done with equity, including the renovations and setup. And then at that point, I got a mortgage on the bank to fill up my
You
line
got a
of
mortgage on the
credit.
bank. Yeah.
Mortgage on the
Yeah.
bank. Yep, yep. So now cash flowing asset with no cash. Pretty awesome.
Mortgage on the bank instead of from the bank. Yeah.
Well, from the bank on the bank.
Yeah. 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 That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
but
that's
so that's how I got started. There's more layers to the story as well.
yeah.
Always
Yeah.
happy to share those. But so that's one part of what I do. Being so long in the industry, it's pre Airbnb, before Airbnb came on board. Back then, we actually had people mail us checks with
What?
guest agreement with ink on them. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that's how crazy it
Where
is.
you
And
had to pick up a phone to get
yes.
a reservation. Yep.
Yes, exactly. So we've done direct bookings from the very beginning. That was
Right.
back when Verbo was basically Craigslist, where your name and phone number and email were on the listing and people contacted you directly. We only paid at beginning like $500 a year to be on Verbo.
Right.
And then they started increasing it. I think by the time they switched over to pay per booking for new folks, I was paying 1,600 a year per listing.
Damn.
So at that point, when they went to pay per booking, I'm like, oh. you drop into subscription rate. I had a rate cut, and then I started playing with Facebook ads and Google ads and things like that. So it's I've been in it a long time, but
Yeah,
in
yeah.
doing that,
Well, you've also seen it because we just started teaching students here because it originally this community originally started as a rental arbitrage community, and it's
uh-huh,
evolved as the short-term rental industry has evolved in this time.
totally.
But you've seen it go full circle. It's like now people are starting to talk about direct bookings is the new thing. You're like, no, it's not. That's how it used to be. One of our
Exactly.
coaches, Sue, and everyone will hear this, is like Sue is a phenomenal manager out of Australia that's a consultant to Airbnb now, but she's been in the industry just as long. And she's like, she always gives the joke that like Jesus Christ stayed in a short-term rental or was born in a
Yes,
short-term rental.
exactly.
Like,
He was. There
yeah,
was no room in the inn. He was born in a
yeah,
barn.
exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it's like the whole, you've seen the direct booking circle happen already. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So as far as other industry goes, I would consulted with HomeAway for 3 years. And then after that, Touch Day Digital Guidebooks brought me on for
Awesome.
consulting. And now I'm the queen of guest experience with Touch Day. And then
Yeah.
I travel the world speaking at industry conferences and teaching and sharing the wealth and knowledge and all the experiences that I've had and continue to have.
Awesome. So I want to switch gears real quick too, and we talked about this prior, was you're the first person on here that we've had that has a lot of luxury and larger home like management experience. So if you wouldn't mind touching on, I guess, some of the differences when it comes to both managing these types of properties, but also marketing these types of properties. Because I'm actually curious to hear this just for personal reasons, because I have a 6-bedroom house that can sleep 14 people, and then we also have a 6,000 square foot house that can sleep like 12 people. That is the marketing is a little bit different for these types of properties. Same thing with management. So I'm curious to see how you manage and market these properties on. Are you putting them on Airbnb, VRBO exclusively, or are you doing some other? So whether you just mentioned Facebook and Google ads, are you doing stuff like that? Are you marketing them on other STR sites as well? So I'm curious to hear what you say about that. I mean, it's a big mouthful,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Okay. So the biggest thing is you have to know who your target guest is. Okay. It's not going to work just to market anywhere where you think people are. You need to market where your target guest is. So I know for my big properties that I am after families of 3 to 4 generations. So my properties are set up specifically for families that have 3 to 4 generations. So that means we're handicap accessible. It
yeah,
means we're dog friendly because Aunt Sue wants to bring her little dog with her too, because all her kids
that's
are
our baby.
grown and her
Yep,
dog's her baby now.
yep,
Yep. So knowing very, very intimately who your target guest is, and then you need to look at where they hang out. Knowing the approximate age of who is booking, but not just who is booking, who is influencing the person who's booking and paying the money. So even though I might have the third generation, grandma and grandpa paying the money down and great grandma and grandpa was coming, it's the kids who are closer to my age. They're the ones doing the research and finding where they want to go. And then you've got the younger kids who they have to make sure that they're taken care of as well. So I know exactly who's paying the money, who's making the decisions, and then I look at where they're hanging out at. So my bigger properties, we are on Vrbo and Airbnb. We are direct. We're actually 40% direct as far as our bookings go. We're also on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Pinterest. So all of those, and we pay for Google Ads too. So I have my SEO friend who's done a lot of research on what keywords to target, and then we target those with our
And do
website.
you target like is it the entire management company, or are you targeting like it's for specific properties that you're running Google and Facebook ads?
We're
Yeah.
for the entire management company for
Yeah.
that brand. So
Got
I
it.
got 2 brands. Those are separate because they're very different target
Different.
audiences as
Yep.
well.
Different
Yep.
avatars. Yep.
Yep, absolutely. But the thing is with our Vrbo and Airbnb strategies, they are different than my wine country properties. So Vrbo across the board, we're definitely, I already raised my rates 7%. Okay, so direct booking is always going to be less. I have my PMS system push out rates that are 7% higher on Vrbo. On Airbnb, I only open up my calendar a little bit at a time because I want direct and Verbo bookings first, and then I let Airbnb fill in the holes. So I'm on Airbnb, but that doesn't mean my calendar is open
Yeah,
for
yeah.
those prime dates where Airbnb controls the money. I don't want Airbnb controlling the money. I mean, it can be
And the
15,000
guest.
for a
Yeah,
week.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and the guest. So I'm very strategic in that. On top of that, with Airbnb, I just said Verbo, I upcharge by 7%. Airbnb, I upcharge by 70%. That's 70. Now, what happens is when folks filter down and they find my properties, then it's such an outrageous price. It usually triggers something to say, wait, can I find this property elsewhere? And
Mm,
that helps them to drive
huge. Never
us
heard of that
finding
before.
elsewhere. Yep.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Yep. So those are the biggest things. As far as the booking goes part. Now, taking care of the guest, I've also found the more money a guest pays, and we exceed their expectations, the easier the guest is. When you start dropping your price and discounting rates and things like that, that is a very difficult guest. You
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, for students who have managed through multiple, like, say, like they've done a full calendar year where they've gone through like just a slow season. You'll see that if you're just going off of dropping your price, that the quality of your guest is going to drop during your slow season. I've definitely seen that in the last 6, 7 years of managing. Yeah,
yes,
100%. It's
absolutely.
usually, yeah, as long, like you said, as long as you meet their expectations at that price, it's typically an easier guest at those higher numbers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the big thing that we see with meeting and exceeding expectations is in the line of communications. So answering the guest questions before they ask them and making sure that they know we are always here, we're preparing for their arrival, we're going to welcome them, we're going to care for them.
Yeah.
They feel like we are doing our very best with them. And we've had many customers, many clients, guests say, hey, we're ready to leave you 5 stars review, but we haven't even arrived yet. I mean, this is before arrival. So I
Yeah.
think the communication alone can help you stand out, and knowing their name.
Yeah.
That's huge. Just
Yeah, and
calling
so
every guest name.
what you're saying there is a perfect segue into essentially what touch state is. So let's talk about like what exactly touch state is. It's not just like I thought you guys when before we even met at the conference, I thought you guys were just a digital guidebook platform. So it's like let's talk about the what touch state is and the different things, and also what sets you guys apart from other, I guess I'm not gonna say competitors, just other digital guidebook services out there. Like I've always recommended Hostfully's up until I met you guys. So but now I exclusively use you guys. So
That's
yes,
awesome.
yeah,
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 so Touch Day is a digital guidebook. That's how we started 8 years ago. So we are one of the very first ones online. When Touch Day started, it was actually a very ugly platform. And when the founders came to me and said, "Hey, will you, help us out, consult for us?" Like, it's ugly. It's not a product I could use. But then they changed it. It's beautiful. And I think that's one of the things that really sets it apart is because it is beautiful to use. It's easy to navigate. Everything, all the features we add, any changes we make, it's along the lines of KISS. Keep it
keep it
simple,
simple, stupid.
stupid.
Yep.
Yeah. And we all know guests have vacation brain. They leave their brains at home, and everything has to be very simple around their vacation. So we do the same thing with Touch Day. So the guidebook it's not just simple, it's beautiful, it's easy to navigate, and most importantly, you can brand it to you as the property manager, as the co-host, as the vacation rental owner. So it's building your brand, it's building your guests' trust and loyalty in your brand. It's letting your guests know that they're communicating with you, not with Verbo, not with Airbnb, not with Booking.com, not with anyone else. They are communicating with you. So logos, photos, colors, videos, text, hyperlinks, your social media, how-to videos, anything that you want to put into it. In addition, what we added last year and something we just now starting to shout about a little bit more is Memo. So Memo is the communication flow that you can completely choreograph according to guest arrival and departure. So that's how I drip my communications to my guest. So one of the things that people do, and they've done since the beginning of time, is you booked a place and you send your guest, hey, thanks for booking. If you even do that, and then you go silent. And
Right.
then you're like, oh, yeah. So 3 days beforehand, you might send an email saying, hey, here's your list of instructions on how to access, and here's all our local recommendations. And you end up with like a 5-page email that's super long.
Then
No
nobody's
one
gonna read.
reads it.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
one's going to read it. Or you
Somehow the check-in code is in the middle of that. Yeah, yeah,
buried, you don't see it. Same with the Wi-Fi, it's buried in
yeah.
there. Or you might send it 24 hours before because you're thinking, oh man, I got to keep my place secure. I'm only going to send it 24 hours. Well, guess what? You are
Nonsense. Yeah.
killing the guest experience. When I was at Home Away, they found that 60% of their customer service calls was in the middle of that downtime when guests were calling and saying, I have not heard from my host. Do I still have a booking? I just spent $7,000 and I have heard nothing. What's going on? So the expectations of guests and travelers of expecting communications from all of us, it's not meeting with our practices of communicating, sending only maybe 2 emails or 3 at the most. When I did a survey on Twitter, 80% of folks only sent 2 or 3 emails, and that was it. Whereas, as I said, guests are expecting more. So me personally, I actually have 20 touch points. That's 20 from the time of booking to
Holy crap.
arriving. Yeah.
I thought
Now,
7 was a lot. Yeah.
no, I got 20. Now, here's the
Yeah.
thing. It's not 20 emails. It's not. Okay. So we got emails, we got SMS text. So Touch Days Memo sends out SMS text. I send a physical greeting card to my guests. We do an actual phone call on arrival as well. And these are with our big properties, the luxury properties. So more touch points helps to build that trust, especially that card that arrives in the mail and their
Card is
mailbox.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. That phone call so they hear your voice, the videos that we put into the digital guidebook, and we're dripping little bits of information at a time. So there's never this super long email that you can get lost in. They're like TLDR, didn't read it, we're done. So instead, it's little bits at a time and spaced out right just a few days before guests ask a question about that item. So there's a question about or an email about travel insurance. There's an email about traffic, about where to get the best show and attraction tickets. 3 days ahead, we send an email saying, hey, here's the 3 most important things to access the place, even though we sent directions and access information 2 weeks before. 30 days before, we tell them, this is when access comes. It's going to come 2 weeks before. So setting those expectations and then exceeding them as well. One of the things, our little secret on morning of arrival. So my favorite part of our choreograph flow also is the morning of arrival. So I send out both a text, saying, hey, we're really looking forward to seeing you. But I also send an email saying, hey, this is arrival date you booked for. Here's a departure date. Here's the number of adults, kids, and dogs. Now, this is very important part of this little email. It says, if the number in your group has changed, please let us know in case there's an emergency. Now, this does 2 things. One, we need to know how many bodies are taken out if there's a fire. Okay, so this is definitely a safety issue. Okay, so if anybody pushes back, we tell them that. It's like, we need to know how many people and dogs must be saved in case of an emergency. The other thing is, people's travel plans change, especially with the large groups. So they could have added people. They could have, someone dropped out. They could have decided to add a dog, or maybe they had 0 dogs and they added a dog, or their dog died the previous week and now they need to remove the dog. So there's occasionally a change in the count. And then they let us know at that time. They hit reply. They let us know. With our large houses, we don't charge per person. It's, as number up to the number it sleeps. We're selling time, no matter if it's 5 people or 20 people. But we do charge for dogs, and it's a per dog fee. So at this point, we usually end up catching those extra dogs that they're adding to it, and that helps. And then also, I really do believe it gives that sense of care to our guests, that we truly want to know, because in case there's an emergency, we want to take care of them. And it's just one of those little touch points, those little details, that's part of hospitality. And that if you're just an investor and you're just thinking numbers, you're not thinking about the hospitality part. And vacation rentals, short-term rentals, it's hospitality. It's not just numbers.
Yeah. 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 That's huge. There was that the same message that we had talked about at the conference that you like to send in regards to, I forgot what it was in terms of, was it a review or something that just like,
No,
hey,
there's
yeah,
another
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
that one was the one I wanted to talk about, because that one was super. I've never heard of that before.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I just talked about the morning of arrival. Well,
yeah.
the evening of arrival, we
Mm.
actually send a text at 6 p.m. on arrival, saying, "Hey, how did your check-in go? Will you please rate it?" This is through Touch Day. It's called First Impressions, and the link in the text goes directly to that section in the Touch Day digital guidebook. And our guests can rate 1 to 5 stars. They put their name and they can put any comments in it. And what I love about it is especially when they mention how clean the place is, I can screenshot it and send it to my cleaning team and give them the kudos of, hey, you did a great job, and we're letting you know right here in the beginning, not at the end of the stay. And then it also helps. And we actually got a 4 star the other week. I'm like,
Oh no.
oh no,
Yeah,
my 4 star first impression. That's the first one. My
yeah.
5 star streak is ruined, you know? But they let us know about a cleaning issue, and then we were able to take care of it immediately. So that to me is huge.
Yeah, it's huge because that guest is more than likely, I would say 50-50, maybe 40-60, that they're going to tell you about that anyways. Like they're going
Yeah.
to, it's just like you're getting in front of it, that you're like, okay, yeah, it's like we're going to fix it. It's better that you hear from it through a question you ask first than the other way around, than, hey, there's no firewood, or hey, like this isn't as clean. No, that's huge. That's huge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it also opens the line of communication with your guest right away. So that's
Yeah.
another reason we do a phone call after arrival. We try to do it, after they've sent in their first impressions. Not everybody does the first impressions, but I will refer to that if they have. But opening that line of communication through a phone call, they hear our voice, and it gives them that opportunity to say, oh, wait, something's gone wrong, or the pool heat's not working right. And, we can immediately send someone over, take care of any issues right away, instead of letting it be like, oh, well, it's just one little thing, and it festers them with them so throughout their stay, and it just gets worse and worse. And as you know, if someone has 2 or 3 small things, they start adding up, and then everything just goes downhill, and then they
Oh
end
yeah,
up paying
absolutely.
later or
Because
asking
they'll start
back.
they'll start nitpicking the whole property at that point. Yeah. So outside of that, what would you we already just touched on it, but like what are some of the more creative things that you've seen Touch Stay used for outside of just the, I'm not gonna say the digital guidebook, but what have you seen the digital guidebook? And one thing that you'd also mentioned too that I want to touch on, I keep saying touch stay touch on, is that most of our students here that are listening to this, and you're talking about messages that are either texted or emailed to them. It's not through, that's different than if they're on Airbnb and VRBO when they're sent their messages through that platform. TouchStay has the capabilities to directly text owners, which is huge because some people have their notifications turned off on Airbnb and VRBO. You can still call them, obviously, but they're going to probably respond to a text message way faster than they are through the Airbnb app.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. And I might be totally going against your teachings on this part of
go for it.
communication, but
It's where STRs are
I
going.
all
Yeah.
right. Okay. So I do not message guests on the platform after they book.
Hmm.
So, before they book, it is the platform's guest. It's the traveler belongs to the platform, but once they book, they are my guest, and therefore
Yes.
communications are with me. So we take all communications off platform. I know some people say, "Oh, but wait a second, if there's an issue, then Airbnb has to get involved." It's like, no, no, it's my guest. I will take care of issues. If I need to screenshot a text or an email and put it into the Airbnb message thread, I can totally do that. But
And
otherwise,
that's not against terms at all. Yeah.
it's not.
Because I've had guests text me directly before. They'll take your number and text you directly. It's the same thing.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's not against terms of service. They've booked. Now, if you cannot do it pre-booking. Okay. So against the terms of service to do pre-booking, but once they've booked, you are allowed to communicate with them in the way that your business needs to communicate with them. So I go off platform, we go direct email, we go direct phone number, with texting and all of that.
Awesome.
Okay,
Awesome.
so
Yeah,
what was
that's,
the
yeah.
question you originally asked me about, and I did not answer yet?
I asked two questions
Oh,
at the
touch day.
same time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so Touch Day, what else do we do? So yeah, we started as a digital guidebook for vacation rentals and short-term rentals. That's how we started. But the truth is, Touch Day can be a guide to anything, absolutely anything. You'll see that in our marketing and soon, sometime this year. But anything that you would originally put in a PDF or a Word doc can be on Touch Day. So for example, my property management services, when someone inquires about, hey, will you be my property manager? I have my sales guide through Touch Day. So I can send them that sales guide all about our services. And because Touch Day is laid out beautifully, and there's a search feature, and I can add all my properties in there, say, hey, these are the properties we already do. Here's our service. Here's what to expect. This is your ROI. And it's all searchable as well. And since we're a PWA, a progressive web app, it's just a link that you send to folks. But as soon as they save it to their phone, it looks and acts like a native app, which is super cool. So that's one way. If you have a venue, you can do event guides. You can do wedding guides. We have an elevator
Per
company.
wedding is what we
Per
talked about.
wedding. Yeah, we talked about that. So it's per wedding you can do. So you can give your brides their own guide. So it's a way to upsell them to the next package even. So then elevator company uses us for a manual. We have a tour company to use us as a training manual. We have a volunteer manual. We have a school use us. Gosh, there's a dental office in the UK that uses us.
You can use it like, so like the short of it is you're using it as you're training internally, you're training your people, even if they're 1099 or whatever, you're training them on, especially for the luxury properties, like
Oh yeah.
that's an entire manual in itself on how to operate the property.
So
So,
standard property appearance, we send that to our cleaners. So this is, each
yep.
section for each room and photos and what we expect, how many towels in each bathroom. Absolutely anything. It truly is.
Yeah, it goes into I mean, I've taught on Mike McAllowitz's like stuff before on like clockwork and whatnot, and one of the other coaches, Ari, for the students, when they hear his name, they'll automatically know what he's talking about too. It's like we're huge believers in like video loom, video over trying to send these crazy text messages and whatnot. I mean, you know probably better than anyone that like the number one thing for me when I first, it's like get into the property and stay like you were a guest, and what are you struggling with? Number one thing is if the lights aren't already on when they're walking in, how do you figure out the light situation in a luxury property or a larger property? So it's like that's the first thing I thought about. It's like, okay, a guide for just lights on, okay, this is how you turn on the lights. This door leads here, this door leads here, because you might get lost or you might go all around the house just to get to this bedroom when you could have gone through this door.
Oh,
So
especially with our historical properties, it's like
yeah. Yeah,
they
that's
just
literally the one that I'm referencing right now. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, so like videos, we have a video how to take the hot tub cover off. Then there's
Yes.
a video how to push the buttons and how to operate the jets.
If
And
it
there's
goes into
video.
energy saver mode, what do you
Oh my
do?
God.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I'm digging deep here now.
No, 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 but that's what you got to do and split them up. You don't want a 5-minute video of how to work the hot tub. You want
You want 5 45-second videos or six, yeah.
exactly, just the parts that they need so they can reference the time they need. One of our hot tubs, we actually have a QR code framed on the wall near it saying, scan here to learn how to open it because there's a safety lock on it. And a lot of people don't realize all you got to do is push the red button as you lift it. That's it. But they end up almost breaking it and calling us, we can't get it open. So now there's that QR code saying, having trouble opening it, scan here. This is how you do it in 10 seconds.
And then that QR code goes directly into TouchStay, essentially, like they're directed into TouchStay. Yeah.
Exactly, to that section in TouchStay where the video is. So we're always directing people back to the TouchStay digital guidebook every time we give them information, because you can deep link to the specific topics, and which then trains our guests. Oh, this is where I found the info. And next time, oh, the info's here. Oh, maybe I'll look here first, and then I'll ask them if I can't find something. And because we've done this, we have cut our communication back and forth with guests tremendously. So now most of the communication is one way. So us pushing communication to our guest. Now it is automated, but it also has that human touch. So super important. Yes. We speak in our brand voice. We put the guest's name in there. We use the short codes and custom fields to do that. And things are automated with the human touch, one-way push communication. So our team can then focus on if there really truly is an issue, or to do that upsells and things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, so I mean, that's essentially all the questions I wanted to ask today. The last question I wanted to ask was, you already touched on briefly on some of your touch points,
Mhm.
and if you wouldn't mind, and it doesn't have to be every single property is going to be different, but if you wouldn't mind walking through sort of your entire guest experience from pre-booking to essentially after checkout. Because I think a lot of students struggle with that. Some students may be contacting too much. Some students might be contacting in the wrong way. Some students might be not doing it at all. Like you said, like maybe some students are sending check-in messages manually 18 hours before check-in. So stuff I would love to hear just your whole process because everyone's is different.
Sure.
Yeah.
So disclaimer is I'm going to explain the process for my big houses. So I
Yeah.
know the booking window is an average of 5 months. So generally they book anywhere
Completely different with
from
smaller properties. Yeah.
So 3 months to 2 years is when they book. So there's quite a bit of space between booking and arrival. Smaller properties, especially like our wine country properties, they might
Three
book
months.
2 days before arrival.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Average is like
very
6 weeks for us. Yeah.
yeah, so you have to keep in mind that you will need to adjust your communication flow according to one, your target guest, and two, your booking window, then three, your property. So pre-booking, we have our marketing. Our marketing is in our brand voice. I truly cannot stress that enough, that you have to speak in your brand voice no matter what, whether that's your listing, that's your social media, that's your replies to your guest when they ask a question, when they send an inquiry. We also have our names. I want them to know who we are. We have our business name, and we always direct them back to our social media. So those things right there, we're building those trust points that guest loyalty already automatically. The other thing about our brand voice is not just the copywriting, the text, it is also in the photos. So the photos make sure they are right there, brand voice. We'll hide some fun Easter eggs into the photos as well because our brand is fun. I'll leave that to you guys to go look at Branson Family Retreats and look for the Scotsman. We say in those photos, the Scot is not included with their stay.
It's funny.
So you'll want to go take a look at that. Uh, but the thing is, with marketing, we're explaining things. We're using bullet points. We're not doing giant bulks things of text with 10 sentences. It's maybe 2 sentences per paragraph. It is using a hook and a story to connect with the guest and selling on emotions and justifying with facts. It is only drilling down to saying, this is who our guests are. If you are these guests and we explain it, this property is perfect for you because we don't want everybody at all. We don't want the parties. We don't want the young college kids coming and hanging out unless it's older college kids all coming back with their spouses and reliving their glory days. That's totally cool, but we have a minimum age of 25. You've got to be a little bit older. You got to be graduated.
Yeah.
So pre-marketing, pre-booking, it's all about the marketing and answering questions before they ask them. So your listings have to answer those questions. Don't just do a little blurb. Hey, I got the greatest house possible, and we sleep 5 people, and there's 2 beds and 1 bathroom. Book us now. That doesn't work. I'm sorry. Okay, so that's pre-booking. At booking, we have an automated message that immediately goes out to them saying, thank you for booking. Now, if it's on Airbnb, they get this message on the Airbnb platform. So our PMS will automatically put it onto the Airbnb platform. At the same time, they will get an email from us, from our PMS. And it will also say that Airbnb message says, check your email because you're getting important things. Then they also get a text from TouchStay through the memo program saying, hey, we're so excited you booked with us. Here is a link to our digital guidebook. So immediately we're sending them that information. So that is all the stuff that goes out right away at booking. Now, for our homeowner clients, they also get an email. This is a custom email that I set up so that they get congratulations with the little emoji and everything so that they don't have to go into their dashboard and be like, have I gotten any bookings? What's going on? They get that little ping of excitement just like we do. And they're like, oh, I got a booking. This is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
On top of that, our email notification that we get for our team, I have it set to where I get my Gmail will forward that to my text message. And then on my phone, that text message specifically from Gmail has a special tone. So whenever I get a booking, I have a special tone that comes across my phone. Remember when Airbnb used to do that all the time, and you get the little chimes of the Airbnb? It's like, oh, is it a booking or is it an inquiry? What's going on? You know, it's like
Yeah,
Pavlov
now
dog.
I hear that chime in my dreams. On my
Yes, right. You're like, it's like a cha-ching.
Yeah, yeah.
But okay, so as I talked about earlier, we limit our Airbnb amounts. We're
Mm,
40% direct. We're less than 10% revenue from Airbnb. We totally limit that. I made my own chime. So now I've trained myself whenever I get that specific chime, like,
yeah,
phew,
yeah.
booking.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So lots
Cool.
of communications go out different ways. Right away at booking. The next day, the guests get an email saying, hey, did you buy travel insurance? Now, this only goes out if they have not bought travel insurance that's connected to their booking. So our PMS does have travel insurance that I can have connected directly with the booking. It makes it easy for the guest when they go through and they fill out their guest agreement, and they can choose travel insurance or decline.
Interesting. Well, if you
So
don't mind me asking, interrupt you real quick. What PMS do you use? I'm just curious.
yeah, I use owner res or owner
Oh, okay.
reservation. Mhm.
Got it. Perfect.
Yep, love them. And so day after they get travel insurance email, 2 days after they get an email from us saying, hey, now that the formalities are out of the way, it's time for the fun stuff. And we talk about the show and attraction tickets for the area and where the best ones to go to, the best place to find those tickets, those essential questions as they start their planning process.
Yep.
And
You're
then
guiding them through their whole trip. Yep.
exactly. And then
Yep.
a little bit later, they get that greeting card to arrive in their mailbox. It's a card that has our favorite hiking trail, and that's purely what it is. It's just here's our favorite hiking trail. This is how you get there. This is why it's our favorite. And we're so excited that you're coming. And that
So they
is,
get the card while they're at your property,
nope,
or
they
oh,
get
this
it
is
soon after booking.
oh, got it, got it. This is all soon. This is no check-in already. No, no.
No, no,
That's
we
awesome.
remember.
I haven't even touched that yet. Yeah.
Alex, come on, we got ways to go here. I do want to back up though
Yeah.
to day of booking. And I don't talk about this a lot, but I think you guys would be super interested in this part.
Yeah.
So every single guest, we get their email, we get their mailing address, we get their phone number, no matter what platform they come through us to us. So that's Airbnb, Verbo, Direct, all of that. And we send them a guest agreement. In that guest agreement, that's where they give us the additional information. I mentioned they have a choice to choose travel insurance or decline travel insurance. The other part of that flow of signing the guest agreement and travel insurance is we give our guests the opportunity to donate to court-appointed special advocates, the CASA for foster kids here at home. Now, part of what we do is we have dedicated $1 per night of every single booking to go to CASA. So we donate upwards of $5,000 a year to our local CASA. We're big sponsors of them. And part of our mission and focus is providing spaces for families to come together. That's why we have large houses. And this fits right in with it to support our local community and the foster kids. So putting that out there and letting our guests know that this is part of our business is to support our community. And then they have the opportunity to match that donation or give even more with their donation. And it's really cool to see how many guests do that. And I think it just builds more of those trust points and goodwill as well. All
Yeah,
right.
that's awesome.
So that's okay. So we're due 2 days after. Skip forward a little bit. If they have not signed that guest agreement after 48 hours, they get a little email saying, hey, super important, you need to sign this guest agreement. They get 2 of those. After that, our system sends my team a note saying they have not signed the guest agreement. You need to follow up with a phone call. So my team will follow up with a phone call or text message to make sure that, hey, you guys need to do this or you don't get in. And then it's usually taken care of.
Yeah.
Yep. And then 35 days before arrival, actually, before their balance is due. So if they book further out, they're only paying partial. Before their balance is due, we have them pay at 90 days before arrival. So at 97,
The entire balance.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
interesting.
Yep. So remember, these are big houses.
Yeah, big house is bigger. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So booking windows are pretty big. So we don't want someone to cancel close to the time and then we can't refill it. So that's why it's at 90 days.
Right,
So at 97 days, they'll get an email saying, hey, your balance is about to be charged to your card on file next week. If you need to change a card on file, let us know. So purely informational to let them know what's going to happen. And that way they also don't have this giant charge on their card that they forgot about that was coming.
yeah.
Yep. So 90 days, they get the email receipt. 35 days before, if they haven't gotten travel insurance yet through our system, it'll ping them and say, hey, we noticed you didn't get travel insurance. Do you want to buy it now? Because your window to buy it ends at 30 days before arrival. So it gives them that last chance there. Then right at 30 days, they get another email purely about the digital guidebook. They'll also get a text message saying, hey, check your email. And as you get closer, messages become more frequent and more text messages versus emails, because that is the time that they're expecting to hear from you more and more as they get closer to their arrival.
Right.
So 14 days out is the text saying, check your email. We've just sent you directions and access information. So that email is there. It also includes the link back to the digital guidebook again and tells them why they need to go check it out, including Wi-Fi, coffee, groceries, whatever your most important questions are that people ask you. And that's what you need to say is in there. Then let's see, 10 days before arrival, we send out, let me think. It used to be grocery.
I'm writing some of this stuff down. So awesome.
I've got
Yeah,
this all on my blog, by the way. I can
I
send you
love
the.
it.
Okay.
We'll
Uh,
link it. We'll link it here and
yeah,
stuff too.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So 10 days out, it used to be grocery delivery service that we offered, but we didn't have the manpower anymore, unfortunately. So we had to remove that message. But we've replaced that. I believe I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it's something about order charcuterie boards or make reservations for restaurants, that type of thing. 7 days before, we talk about, hey, our hot tub has a lock on it. And this is the information how to access the hot tub. And here's traffic issues. So tips about the traffic. So, and
Hmm.
that email is actually our most replied to email, just saying traffic and hot tub safety. And I think sharing those details with guests is one of those touch points that says, we're thinking about you. We care about you. Here's
We've
some.
dealt with this before in the past. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. So that's 7 days out. 3 days out is, hey, just to keep it on top of your email, here is address, parking, access code, and the link to our digital guidebook. Don't forget your check-in time is 4 p.m. If you need to arrive early, guaranteed you need to book the night before. Same as, departures 10 a.m. If you need to be a guaranteed late departure, please book the night after if it's available. And so
Got it.
that increases the number of nights booked. We'll usually give a little bit of a special at that point as well, if it's even available. Then we already talked about morning of arrival. They get an excited text and they get the email asking to verify the number in their group. Then that night is the first impressions text and our phone call. Then the night before departure, they get a text saying something like, hey, we're so sad that you have to leave in the morning. We hope you've had a wonderful time. Don't forget, checkout is 10 a.m. and your checkout instructions are on the fridge and in the guidebook. And link that section as well. And then the morning of departure, because we have large houses and we know families have issues getting out the door and they want to sleep in and they want to fudge things, 8:30 a.m. They
Can
get
we
another.
leave? Yeah. Can we get an extra hour? No.
Yeah, no, it's 8:30 a.m. We let them know. Very friendly reminder, checkout is 10 a.m. If you've left already, please let us know, because we do have half our guests who hit the road at like 5, 6 a.m.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
they don't want to tell us because it's so early. And I
Yeah,
totally appreciate that because that's super early. I'm still sleeping.
yeah,
So
yeah.
at
But
8.
then your cleaning crew can get in there early too. Yeah.
Exactly. So they'll reply, 8:32 a.m. They'll let us know, hey, by the way, we've left. You guys can get in there early. And then we'll let the cleaning crew know that they can get in early.
Do you just
Uh,
have VAs that handle that line of communication to the cleaning company, or like do you have like just your messaging people just like, hey, you get to turn early?
yep, just our
Okay.
team. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then in these texts from Touch Day, it's one way. the guests cannot reply to these texts. And when I first set it up, I was thought, this sucks. I need two-way. This is horrible,
Mm,
but I'm going to try it. But I really think I need two-way. Well, being almost a year into it, honestly, I've changed my mind. I like the one way. And what's happened is I don't have people just hitting a thumbs up or just saying, okay, or just saying thanks. Those little communications where it clutters the team's inbox and it's
right.
like, oh, somebody replied, I got to see what it is. You don't have those extra things coming through that you really don't need.
Absolutely.
You don't need the
Yeah.
distraction. But in the texts that we send out that are one way, we always end them with have any question marks, so questions, text us at, and then I put our team number in. So that way the guest has that message and they can simply tap that number and they can call or text from their phone, and that'll get to our team right away. So it then goes into our two-way channel that's with our team.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm
that's
sorry. Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, boom.
departure
They
morning.
just checked
I'm
in.
not
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. They just
But
checked in.
no, they checked in, they've checked out.
Right.
The other thing we do is then morning of departure, they get an email saying, thank you so much. If there was something that did not go well, or if you have suggestions for improvement, please email us, please reply and let us know. Otherwise, here are ways to leave us reviews, and that's on, Facebook. It's our direct booking link through Owner Res, and it's through our Google business listing. So they get that. And then 5 days after, they get another email saying, hey, can you help our next guest out? And that's a link to leave a review on Google. And then a few days later, they actually get a physical thank you card in the mail as well. And so that's branded with us, and it's
So
simply
two separate cards. Yeah.
separate cards. Thank you so much. And here's a code for your direct booking, a return guest discount.
Wow. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I said, this is all automated, with that human touch. I don't have VAs. We just have a small team. So it's my
Yep.
husband and I, and then our son-in-law who helps us out. And then our daughter is starting to help us too. And yeah, so we're a super small team and it's great.
Yeah. But the way you like you said, it's automated, but the way you explain it, because you broke it out, sounds complicated, but it really isn't. It's like for everyone that's hearing it, she just broke out like 2 or 3 years of experience, and then to you guys, it's just it's instant. It's instant that it goes out for the most part.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's something when you look at, you need to figure out, okay, what are my guests asking me? At what point are they asking me? And then you need to back up the communication a couple of days. So you're answering the guest questions before they ask them. And it helps tremendously with that flow and makes them feel very, very comfortable and trusting you. And they get to know you versus the OTAs.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around in a good way. But let me end it with this. So because we've been going on for like almost an hour now, and this phenomenal episode. This is a question that I ask all the people that come on here is there's been an evolution just with me doing this. Is I started with all my peers, a lot of the conferences that or a lot of conferences I would attend, meet people in the short-term rental space. They say 8-10 years ago, they would say I'm in Airbnbs, I'm in VRBOs. Then that evolved to I'm in short-term rentals, I'm in vacation rentals. Last 2-3 years, I've been saying it always, even in the bigger pocket stuff. It's like I'm in hospitality. Like that's that at the end of the day, whether you own a hotel, whether you own one short-term rental, whether you're in arbitrage, whether you're a manager, developer, whatever, you're in hospitality at the end of the day. If your property, if you're hosting people, right? So what would you say, and this might be the same answer 20-30 years ago to now, is what would you say is something that sets people in hospitality apart, or people in our space apart, compared to the people that are just dabbling in it with, hey, I read Bigger Pockets blog, I watched a YouTube video, I thought short-term rentals are really cool, I bought one, and then it's just on Airbnb, I'm throwing on an Airbnb and it's going to do well, which we know that now, like, that is not how you run your business. So what would you say are the things that sort of one thing, multiple things that set like the managers and the top 10% in our industry apart from the rest of the people?
It would be the details.
Yeah.
It's the tiny details.
It's the
And
touch points. Yeah. It's like,
yes,
yeah,
exactly. It's not just touch points, but it's the details and leaning into the 5 love languages. Do you know the 5 love languages?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, awesome, awesome.
So
Okay.
you're putting that, yeah, it's cool. I've never thought
Yeah.
of it that way
So
in my world.
yeah, so I actually did a whole presentation how the 5 love languages with our guests can work and how that works and how you incorporate that. So thinking about the love languages and details, we once stayed at a vacation rental that had the cheapest $3 Walmart blinds on the windows. Okay, details matter. You need to spend a little more. Go to Lowe's, get the faux 2-inch wood blinds if you're going to do blinds instead of curtains, and think about how much light is coming into a room. When you sleep, when your guests sleep, how late do they want to sleep? Is the
Mm,
sun going to rise in that window and wake them up before they want to wake up? So, hospitality and being a true hospitality professional, you're going to think about those little tiny details that take care of your guests, even though they're not super apparent. But when they're lacking, it is huge and will make the world of difference in their experience.
that's incredible. Yeah, so I guess I'll end it with where can people find you? Where can people find TouchStay? I'm sure we're gonna link all this stuff down here in the emails that we're gonna send as well. But
Yeah,
yeah,
so you can find me on all your social platforms at Tyann Marsink. That's TYANN MARCINK. I'm the only one in the world, so I'm really easy to
sweet,
find.
easy day.
Yep. You can Google my first name and you'll find me on Google's page 1 as well, which is really cool. You can find TouchStay at, TouchStay on Facebook, at TouchStay Welcome on Instagram, touchstay.com, of course. And then, of course, I'm TyannMarsink.com if you want to check out my personal website with links to all my press and all my websites. My properties are Branson Family Retreats, of course.com. And then the wine country is Missouri House with the German spelling, HAUS.com. And on socials for those properties also.
Awesome, awesome. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about while we're on here? I feel like we knocked out everything. Freaking last hour, we talked luxury, general hospitality, TouchStay, everything. Yeah,
Yep. I will leave you with something from Maya Angelou. And that is that people will forget what you say and what you do, but they will not forget how you make them feel.
absolutely. I'm gonna see everyone on next week's episode. Thanks, guys.